Yeah, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
And am I sitting close enough to the mic and stuff? Yeah, everything's fine? Yeah. Sorry.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Cheers, thank you.
Welcome to another episode of the Game of Life podcast. I'm thrilled today to be joined by one of the best comedians on the planet, the best comedians ever lived or ever will live, Ray O'Leary. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh no, the expectations are through the roof. That's 100% accurate. I'm one of the best comedians who've ever graced the planet.
You have to wear that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm a terrible interviewee. So.
I have to thank you, though, for wearing your little comedy costume to the podcast today.
Thank you very much for calling me little. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
When did the comedy outfit, that came into play pretty early on in your career, right?
Yes, incredibly early. When I first started doing comedy, one of the things I was conscious of is as soon as you walk on stage, the audience form an impression of you. Yeah. And so I knew what I wore was important, but I still wasn't sure what to wear. But I did know it was important, and that audience first impression you wanted to control and make sure it was conducive, to your set and being funny and stuff. And then early on in my career, I started in Wellington in New Zealand, and we would have our own comedy awards for the Wellington comedy scene, and they had an awards night, and they would get they got newcomers to perform, and I was one of the newcomers they chose to perform that year, and because it was an awards night, everyone dressed up, so I put on a suit and I performed in a suit. And one guy who doesn't do comedy anymore was just like, that suits you. And I was just like, all right, well, I'll just wear this for the rest of my life. and he, and I don't think he realized what he was. I don't know if he would have said that to me if he knew the kind of power his words had. It's very helpful. It means I never have to think about what I'm going to wear on stage or how I appear. And it's doubly had a good I don't know. I get the cynical way. It's got a good marketing effect in that it makes me more memorable, I think. Right. I quite like it because if people see me once at a gig, no one. I don't think it's weird to be wearing a suit at a gig. People just be like, "Oh yeah, there's a guy in a suit."
Yeah, of course.
But then they see me again. They're like, "That's the same suit." I'm pretty sure this guy doesn't. Yeah. So I think that helps people remember you.
How many of those suits do you have?
It's not really a question, Pete. You don't really want to know the answer.
Is it one? Is it just the
one? I'll say I've been through more than one.
Yeah.
I've had to decommission some suits due to what's the way to describe it? Excessive soilage over time. Right. I don't know. Yeah, there's some that I've hung up for good, and I've only ever had to wear if I'm doing something really messy. But yeah.
Do you think you could perform stand up? Say there was a suit emergency and something went wrong with your suit.
Tarot cash is on fire.
Yeah. Do you think you'd be able to perform in the same way without a suit?
So actually, when I test new material, I often don't wear the suit on stage, or at least I've currently been in that habit. Maybe that'll change, but then in part because I find it's kind of a hassle to have to change out of my clothes into the suit or whatever. But so. I've heard stories that Chris Rock, when he tests his material, he will just sort of read it monotonously off a card, and then because he knows that when it comes to he could sell anything in his Chris Rock character, and so he knows he wants to just make sure the jokes are actually good, and then when he's sure the jokes are actually good, he'll then Chris Rock it up. He'll repeat premises. He'll stamp his. He has quite a active stage mannerisms.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I wonder is wearing the suit a bit like that? Like if I test material and not wear the suit, am I kind of only testing the jokes and stuff? But I think no, it doesn't work like that. I think there's enough people in the audience who are probably just going, "Oh, he's not wearing the suit," and then they just put it out of their mind. Yeah. Though I have gone onto stage at least once at a new material gig, and people in the front row went, "Where's your suit?" Like they immediately derailed the gig. So,
So it's funny to me. I mean, because I've listened to you on a few other podcasts before doing
and
this.
If you're listening
today.
to this now, don't go seek out those other podcasts. This is the only podcast.
But this is like a comment that sort of comes up. Like you do arrive to podcasts in the suit as well. So
I'm a pro.
Yeah.
I'm a professional.
So it's incredible to me that you do that.
Also more and more podcasts are getting recorded these days.
Yeah.
So there's an a video element to it. So there's more pressure to wear it, I think.
So the face of Vanuatu tourism.
Oh, you have done your research. Wow.
As well. That's come up a lot. But was that something you were actively pursuing? Like how did something like that come across your email or table or whatever?
It comes across my table because Aaron Chen says no, and then they're looking for someone else. No, it's not something I was actively pursuing, and I would say my whole career I've sort of been actively avoiding ads. And I when I first got an acting agent in New Zealand, I was very clear. I was like, I don't want to do any ad work and things like that, and I was. Yeah, as a rule, I've sort of not done them, but yeah, they came to me, or they came to my manager because they had a concept of I believe Fiji at the moment kind of has the monopoly on the idea of being sort of viewed as like a tropical island paradise, and I think Vanuatu wanted to style itself differently as sort of like. You could be a bit more wild there. It's not just like relaxing at the beach and stuff. There's like some activities you can do. You can go, you can go meet the locals and learn about like the history of cannibalism on Vanuatu and things like that. And like there's like they put a spider on my face. There was like things it was a really fun trip. Yeah. So they wanted to do like a mild to wild was the campaign brief, and they were like, who's the most mild white bread man we know, and they settled on me. So they came to me, but it's an interesting ad work, but that one I guess I felt more comfortable with because it was a tourism campaigin. And I wasn't really acting or anything. I was, it's not like I'm shilling a product I don't believe in or anything like that. But I do try and avoid doing advertising work.
Was there a second where you had to think about it seriously before you just said, yes, I'll do it?
Obviously, yeah. And I think hopefully. I mean, I say hopefully a lot of comics would do that, but I mean, that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, there's a bunch of comedians in Saudi Arabia right now doing a comedy festival. So, but yeah, I think a lot of comics do. It's interesting because I do feel like the values of the modern age have changed. I feel like some of the comedians I really idolize, they view doing sort of any kind of ad work and things like that as selling out. And, musicians of the 70s and the 80s, I think all that kind of stuff was seen as selling out. Whereas now it does feel like it's quite interesting. It seems like the artist's view of selling out has completely changed. And if anything, getting to do an influencer post for a brand is actually considered a sign you've made it, and it's actually a very cool thing to do now. But I think I still tend more towards feeling like you've sold out if you do an ad. So I do. I had to think about it carefully, I suppose. Yeah.
You mentioned acting, like you weren't really acting at the time of you accepted to do that ad. Is acting ever something that you had considered doing?
Not well. I mean, yes and no. Well, I guess yes, you consider doing it because now I work in the creative arts and stuff, but it's not something I hugely desire to do. And I think it's because I'm not really from a performing arts background or a performing background at all. And I just haven't done a lot of acting, and so I'm not used to it. And so I don't enjoy. I think I don't enjoy doing it because I've not done a lot of it, and I do think. I think maybe I've got sort of this, maybe like sort of the same curse that Seinfeld has, where really you can only play like the one guy. And I think a lot of comedians have that, where like anytime they're in something, you're like, oh, you're not acting, you're just like, that's Bill Burr in a John F. Kennedy wig or whatever, or it's someone, you could just always tell it's that comedian. And I think maybe, I have that. Acting it's very different to stand up. Stand up, I'm trained from performing in front of crowds, to hear. I'm used to, hearing a laugh every 10 to 15 seconds or whatever. Whereas acting, I don't know, the whole crew has to stay quiet, and then you perform to silence, and then maybe after the first take, if it's funny, they laugh, and you're not sure if they laughed at you or something else. And then, by the fourth take, no one's laughing. They're just like, yeah, we need to get this coverage and this.
Yeah.
And it's a very different experience. And so yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I would love to write. I love writing scripts and stuff like that. But being in front of camera is not a huge dream of mine.
I think I heard somewhere on another podcast, again, mentioning another podcast that you've been on, because you do a lot.
I'm sorry.
No, I love listening to you. But you mentioned, I think, somewhere that you wanted to write a sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, do you have ideas for sitcoms in your head?
You had to steal them. But yeah, that is, I do have ideas and thoughts, and, write them down and work them out with friends. And I have... many moons ago, like pitched sitcoms or at least written a script with friends, and we sent them to some production companies in New Zealand and said, sent them to some producers rather, and said, what do you think about this? Do you have any feedback? And then we were able to get some writing work off the back of that and stuff. So it was, even though what we pitched or wrote, that never ever got made, we still got something very useful out of it. We were able to flesh that muscle, able to get feedback, learn how to do it a bit, and then also got paid work. So off the back of it, so it was very good.
So as a stand-up, obviously you'd be spending a lot of time working on your own. So when those opportunities do come up where you can actually collaborate with others, like what is the difference there in your head? Like going from working on your own to working with others and having to collaborate with others.
Interesting. Yeah, I find, well, this maybe the way I do stand-up isn't necessarily always I guess a solo activity. Like, I will write on my own.
Yeah.
But often I will send, I'll write a joke out and I'll, run it by friends or I'll send it to them and say, what do you think about this and stuff. So it is, it's my work, but it is collaborative, and I am running things by other comics and things like that. So I would say it's not hugely different. I'm trying to cast my mind back to when we wrote that script, but I think often we would maybe we'd take scenes each and we'd go away and write right away, and then maybe we'd get together on a Zoom call and maybe try to go through the script line by line and veto lines and stuff. And it was a very long process and maddening, and yeah. But it's a lot of fun. I think writing with other people, the best thing I do love it. It's so much more fun than writing on your own.
Yes.
And the best thing about it is that normally I write with two other guys, Josh Davies and Ben McGugan, who are very funny New Zealand comedians. And basically, if all three of us laugh at something, it's like, okay, well, that's really funny, or we've said something like deeply inappropriate or illogical. Like it's either really good or something that really can't go in a script or be said anywhere. And so that's the main thing I like, is you just always have someone there to bounce the idea off and sanity check that it's okay. Because so often when you're writing stand-up, you write a line to yourself and you go, ha, 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 that's really funny. And then you message it to someone and they go, I have no idea really what you're talking about. That doesn't really make any sense. Yeah.
Often the case too, like it's all in the performance. Like once you get up there on stage, like you figure it out then how you're actually going to deliver that material.
Yes.
But because you've said there, like, okay, you send your stand-up to friends of yours to gauge their response to it. Were you always comfortable doing that when you first started in stand-up?
God, no.
How long did it take you to get to that place?
That's a good question. I think it was David Correos, who is another very funny New Zealand comedian. He was the one who helped, I think, crack that for me, really. I think he made the New Zealand comedy scene a lot more collaborative, because he started trying to do writing sessions with lots of people, and I think that really helped kickstart it in New Zealand. At least that's from my memory, but probably other people were working together long before then. But I think I probably would have always been sending it to people every now and then when I started. But it is like, when you first start out, it's I don't know, it's so tough running things by people, doing jokes, sending jokes to people when you're new, because when you're new, you're so insecure about how funny you are and stuff. Yeah, so I don't know what changed. Maybe getting more comfortable in my skin, or maybe it was just David starting it out, and we would write together in silence, and then maybe he would go first, and I think maybe that really helped, that someone else was like going, okay, here's, and then you hear some of the ideas and you go, that's terrible, that's good, what about this, and then when you realize that, I don't know, everyone is the same, no one's batting 100 the whole time, it makes you more comfortable to do it.
Did you always see yourself doing stand-up comedy? Was that always on the forefront of your mind growing up?
No. I guess it changed what I wanted to be, but I often did want to work in the creative field. When I want to say around 13, I saw Ellen DeGeneres do stand up on TV. I didn't care for the comedy, but I loved the way she treated her staff, and I thought if I could ever get in that position of power. But no, her specials, I think her early 2000s ones are really, really funny, really solid observational comedy. And but I saw her stand up, and it made me realize it was like a job that you could do and stuff. And so when I was 13, I think I tried to write some stand up or something, or like I had thoughts in my head rather, and they were just dreadful. But and then after that, I think I wanted to be an author for a bit. I think I wanted to write TV, like cartoons, for a bit and stuff. And then when I went to uni and became more serious, I started thinking about becoming maybe like something in economics. I don't know, like an accountant or something really boring. Like I felt like
do the safe thing.
Yeah. Like I think what I really wanted to be was Liz Lemon from 30 Rock. that was the real dream. But I didn't think my mum would be happy if I went to uni and I was just studying, TV writing or philosophy or the things I actually wanted to study. So I also had like an economics degree in there to make it seem legitimate.
So how did the path of stand-up comedy open up to you? Like, when did you first say, okay, I'm going to perform on stage in front of people?
Yeah, it was. So I had the desire or the wanting to do it for a long time, and at least for 1 year before I ever stepped foot on stage, I was writing ideas down in a notepad. Like I would have a thought, I'd write it on my hand, and then and people would note it. They'd be like, "Why do you have all these weird, ramblings on your hand and stuff?" And
you wrote it on your hand.
Yeah, I'd write it because I'd be walking out and about and stuff, and so I'd write it on my hand. And then
do you carry around a notebook now with you? Like, do you do the Larry David thing? Carry around a?
I have my phone now, but it functions as the same thing. Yeah. But that's advice I think is very, very good. Which is, as soon as you get an idea, write it down, because or else the idea will go. Like there's a story of, I think, Roald Dahl having an idea for a book, and he got out of his car and he wrote it in the dust on the car. Yeah, so that way he could remember it. But yeah, so for at least a year before I did stand up, I wanted to do it, and I just was always making excuses for why I couldn't do it. And then I got a day job, and it was, I was very lucky to have it. It was a government job, but I just was hating having to wake up to an alarm at a certain point. I hated how suddenly I was I went from being a student to having a desk job, a bureaucratic desk job, and so suddenly I had no time, but I had all this money that I didn't have, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I getting paid more money than I've ever been paid in my life, but I've got no time to spend it and stuff, and I can't do anything? It just felt absurd and pointless, and I just knew I wasn't really enjoying it, and I knew I wanted to try stand up, but I kept making excuses saying, work is busy and stuff, and eventually I realized, work is never going to there's never not going to be an excuse to. There's always going to be a reason not to do it. So I just have to do it. And so eventually, August 10th, 2015, I believe, was the very first day I got on stage, and I did a gig at a gig called Raw Meat Monday, which still runs in Wellington on Mondays at Fringe Bar, and it went okay. It went all right.
Did you have the Ray O'Leary persona then? Like, did you know the character you were trying to go for when you stepped on stage for the first time, or did that take a while to get there?
I was not intentionally being the character. It was not intentional. But I was. But the character, I would say, emerged from my limitations as a performer, not sort of this. I appreciate you sort of suggesting this grand genius that I sort of.
I just assume that you go through this whole character transformation before you step on stage.
I'm sort of doing Jim Carrey type, exuberant. I'm doing Robin Williams act. I'm running about and stuff, and then as soon as I get on stage, the energy goes. And no, it wasn't. It's not. Yeah, it wasn't a grand plan. I was so nervous to be on stage when I first started. I'd be looking at my feet, and I remember a woman in the comedy scene at the time. She came up to me and she said, "I know it's part of your character, but I think you should try looking at the audience." But it wasn't like a character choice. I was just like struggling to survive up there. I was just so nervous, and that's, I would say, how my current onstage persona emerged. It wasn't a carefully calculated, it was just like, this is all I can do on stage because I'm finding it so nerve-wracking to be here. All I can do is, stand in one spot and speak monotonously. Like, I don't have the confidence to, pretend I'm in a supermarket and buying, some comics will do big act outs and, pretend to be microwaves and things like that. Like, I can't do that.
After that first gig, how long was that gap in between the first and second one?
Maybe a week.
Okay,
maybe a week. Maybe
so.
Two,
it didn't scare you off
on.
for it didn't really scare you off that first.
No,
gig.
Well, when I first started doing comedy, I always went in with the intention of, this is going to become my full-time job. I always wanted it to I wanted it to be my career, which is maybe a crazy thing to think because it's can potentially be quite disappointing. But I was like, I know comedy's tough. I'll probably be bad for a really, really long time. But I want this to be my day job, and then I won't have to do anything else. And so that's the goal. So in Wellington at the time, I think there were really only 2 open mics, 2 gigs that complete newbies could sign up and do, and the first one, Raw Meat Monday, which is still running now, that was the good one, and then there was a bad one that ran downstairs at this gay club on Cuba Street called S&M's, which is, I think S&M still open. Scotty and Mel, they were great, great guys who run the club, and they're always very supportive of me, or of us, I suppose. They let us, and they would, they'd have to endure some really bad comedy. So, we'd be downstairs at their club, and just no one would show up. It'd just be comics, and the room was not good for comedy. And it was. So my second ever gig, I was there, and I completely. I took one of the ideas, at the time in New Zealand there was a flag debate about we were going to have a vote and potentially change our flag, and I had talked a little bit about that in my very first set, and so I took that little bit and I tried to expand it out to 6 minutes, and I tried to do 6 minutes about nationalism and stuff, and and I was just bombing so badly, and it was so horrible. Yeah,
you made me think back to when I did stand up comedy, and you would go to those rooms where it was just filled with other comics nervously waiting for their turn to perform. Like they were never good rooms. I don't know why.
It's crazy, but that's like the what's the word? I don't know. Almost the foundational pyramid of comedy. But there's so many of them. It's sort of it feels. I mean, maybe the public would be shocked to know, but I'd say 99% of comedy gigs do feel like that, where you show up and it's like, oh, it's only other comedians here,
just waiting to perform. Like, not really paying attention to what you're doing up there. Just
it's 100%. And then you're like, oh, I want to do my set, but it's the same. Like, I want to work on the set, but all I've done is I've added a few new lines. But they've heard 5 minutes of it already, and I'm going to do 4 new lines. So they're not going to enjoy they won't even notice there are 4 new lines because I'm just doing the same material. Yeah, it's just, the vibes are just always really, really bad and stuff,
I'm so curious about this government job that you had. How long did it take you to quit that job while you were doing comedy?
2 years. Well.
So you had it for another 2 years since
No. I had it for about gosh, I'm trying to figure out when I started. I think maybe in March, and then it was August. I did. So maybe, and then I think maybe it was like a year and a half after I did comedy, something like that. And yeah, so it was the Department of Corrections, which is the New Zealand ministry that oversees the prison services. And so I was working there, and then in New Zealand I got nominated for this. It was like an up and comer award called the Billy T Award, which is it's for up and comers, and fortunately is also the most well known comedy award in New Zealand. And so I got nominated for that, and with the encouragement of Alice Sneddon and Ryan Richards, who's Ryan Richards is an actor in Auckland. I moved to Auckland after that because there are more comedy opportunities there and stuff. So I left the job after that, and then I started working part time in Auckland while also doing stand up.
Yeah. Did it while you had that job, did it show in your work that you weren't probably particularly invested in that government?
I think they probably could have told before I reckon. I think my boss did actually liked me, so I think it was okay. I think it was the subsequent jobs I got that where I would have to lie. And I have to lie, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing comedy, but if this job leads
I'm not that passionate. Yeah, it's just something I do on the side. Yeah.
Like I am asking for only 4 days a week or whatever, or 3 days a week, so I can pursue TV writing work and stuff. But if a fun opportunity opens up here, then I'll definitely go for it. I was lying through my teeth. And the very last job I had, I remember my boss pulled me into a meeting and was like, we know you're showing up. We've noticed you're showing up to work an hour late, and you're always on Facebook. Could you please stop doing that? And I was like, yeah. And then the next day I handed in my resignation. I was just like, I can't work under these circumstances. This slaver.
How long did it take you, do you think, before you could actually say, yes, I am a full-time stand-up comedian?
That's a interesting question. Depends what you mean by it, because when I first started doing comedy, I was deeply ashamed of the fact, and I found it quite embarrassing to tell people I'm a comedian. Now I don't have the shame. I think at the time when I started, it was because I wasn't doing it full time, and I think the nature of being a good comedian is that you have an audience, or people are aware of you or know who you are. So it's almost embarrassing to introduce yourself, or they have to tell people, it's like if you have to tell people you're famous or you're a comedian, then you're not really a comedian, That's the kind of example. That was how it felt to me in my head. If I'm not making money, I'm not doing this full time, so I'm not really a comedian, and people don't know, you can't tell people, But when I started doing it full time, then that kind of went away, and I started doing it full time about, I think, the start of 2019 is when I started. So when I first started doing comedy, the dream was always, if I can make about $350 a week, I'll be able to pay for my rent, and I can just eat beans all the time, but then I won't have to do a day job. And so that was sort of where I was aiming for, was to get to subsistence living. And so in about 2019 I hit that, but so I was 3.5 years in, maybe, which I think is probably, for like on the international scale, is probably quite early for a comedian, I suspect. But New Zealand is set up so differently. New Zealand's so much smaller, and there was quite a lot of government money keeping comedy on TV. So that we had quite a lot of, there were TV shows that needed writers and things like that, and there was only so many stand-ups and so many comedians in the country. And if you were halfway decent, you could find yourself in these writing rooms and stuff, and that's what happened to me. So I was able to earn, get to that $350 mark pretty quickly,
In those, I think you said 3.5 year period, was there a point, did you have like a crisis of confidence ever? Like, what am I doing? Like, maybe I should just do something a bit more sensible.
Yeah, of course. I've filmed my special last night. I felt the same. I feel the feeling doesn't go away. Of course, constantly. You're just constantly thinking, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And no matter how good you get, there's, comedy is, it becomes less and less luck, but there's always an element of like, some people will just never like the kind of thing you do.
Yeah.
And sometimes there'll be a luck of the draw. They, all those people have somehow wound up in the same room and are there watching you at that moment, So there's, you have plenty of times where you're just like, oh, I can't do this, or I should not be doing this. But was there another question, or you just
No.
probing at my insecurities?
Well, I'm curious. Like when you did start to find success, like say you're here doing a show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, for instance, and you were nominated for a couple awards at the Comedy Festival.
Yeah,
right?
yes, yeah, I was really lucky. Yeah.
So when you start to find success in that way, and then audience start to resonate with what you're doing, and you start to sell out shows and all that sort of stuff, like what does that feel like to you when that starts to happen?
That's good. Well, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Money will make you happy. So it is really nice. It is it's reassuring. I guess it makes you feel like you're on the right path, and it's a really gratifying feeling, because I like to think about, and what's nice about doing podcasts like this is you're forced to re-examine the path you took to get here, and you become philosophical and reflective, and you think, oh, that's right, I did just used to be a guy who wanted to make $350 and eat beans and stuff. Right. And, and I haven't had to eat beans this week, and I'm still doing comedy. So it's like, it's going, pretty well. So I just feel a lot of gratitude. And I do feel like I have a sense that I've achieved a lot. And and for a long time I felt like if I died tomorrow, I'd be, happy, like I've done quite a lot. Ideally, I will not die tomorrow, and I'll continue to achieve things. But I feel quite I feel what's the word? Satisfied with where I am, but still have a desire to do more.
Yeah. Do you know what that more is? Like, what is that? Like, we mentioned sitcoms, for instance. Yes. Like, is that part of it?
Yeah. So that'd be one of the big ones, and then I think the other big one is just to continue doing stand up. Yeah. And getting better at stand-up and writing an even better stand-up show, and continually honing my skills, and and hitting, like, I don't know, internal, like I have ideas about the kinds of bits I'd like to produce and things like that, and doing certain things creatively and stuff. And so I guess being able to achieve that would be satisfying.
I'm curious about the television appearances that you've done on things like Have You Been Paying Attention? Thank God You're Here. I imagine they're terrifying to do when you first do them, right? But with Have You Been Paying Attention, right, it's a very quick show, and you're surrounded by other comedians like wanting to, get in that joke as well. Was that something you found hard to keep up with when you initially got on something like Have You Been Paying Attention?
That is tough, and it is, as you see on the show, like it is a genuine. Well, it is a genuine, like, sorry, I was about to say genuine quiz. It's not a genuine quiz. It's it is a genuine. Points are awarded. In some sense, it's genuine, I suppose, but it is like genuine in the sense that if someone buzzes in and gets the answer, then we all do just move on. And so, if you do think of something, or you think of something too late, In the New Zealand one, we were a bit sometimes a bit lenient on that, and I remember someone going like, "I'll pull that last picture back up," and then they buzzed in, and they said something they had thought of. But you do miss a chance. But I don't know, the guys are very lovely, and it's I don't know, it's not I wouldn't say it's like competitive, I suppose, and it's a very supportive environment. And Working Dog, the team who make who make the shows that I've prepared on, or most of them, they are very good at creating, I think, an environment and a format that is conducive for the comedian's success. I think that shows it reflects in their ratings and stuff, and the quality of the product.
I was thinking about what people like Will Anderson did for Question Everything, where he was bringing on new talent to, hopefully let them thrive in that sort of panel environment. Do you think that's sort of going away, like new opportunities for comedians on television? I mean, we have you paying attention, but like, do you think that's going away a little bit?
Well, I hope so,
Yeah.
and I hope I continue to reap the rewards of this very minimal competition.
Yeah.
I mean, are you asking sort of like, is broadcast TV dying?
Yeah, yes, of course it's dying. Yeah,
yeah. Because I mean, that is true, and I mean, and it's interesting. In Australia, it feels in New Zealand. The scene was so small. You sort of had no choice but to use everyone.
Yeah.
But in Australia, it feels like the TV world and the comedy world are a bit more separate, you know? And so, like, there's a lot of comedians who I think are quite good who will never get a look in maybe in the TV world, or who get tantalizingly close but will never quite make it on screen or whatever. Whereas in New Zealand, it was almost like it was inevitable that you'd be on TV at some point. It'd be like, oh yeah, oh, not this year. Okay, well, don't worry, wait till next year. So I would say, I mean, Have You Been Paying Attention has had a few new people this season, I think, or was it like they've had Chris Parker, who's a New Zealand comic. They've had Dan Connell, he's done it a few times. Sashi Pereira. They had Reese Nicholson for the first time, though Reese is not a new comic themselves. So yeah, I do think it is becoming harder. I will say that, and I like the way I got onto the Australian Have You Been Paying Attention was because I'd been on the New Zealand one quite a few times, and that essentially functioned as an audition for me.
Yeah.
And now that the New Zealand one doesn't exist anymore, that's been cancelled. So that opportunity to get on there is gone. So like, yeah, there it does feel like those opportunities and pathways are disappearing. And I do feel like my particular career path, I don't know if I do wonder, can it be recreated now? Like, or was I just very lucky that I happened to snake in at the exact right time?
I feel like it wouldn't. I don't know. It's getting tougher and tougher. I believe. I don't think you can recreate it.
Yes, and now once you get on TV, it matters less and less.
Yes, of course, because people can just post their specials on YouTube and or do their own shows on YouTube, right?
Yes, 100%. And so few people are like, oh, a TV show's on at 8:30 p.m. I have to be home and watch it.
No one watches it live anymore. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it's becoming tougher and tougher, I think. Or the more traditional pathways seem to be going away. But at the same time, TV does still act as like, gatekeeper's not the right word, but like an endorser. It's a weird thing. Like, so there's a great show in New Zealand called 7 Days, which is like our OG Mock the Week kind of show. And I would say, so few people in the country now watch it. It used to be a big show, and like everything, the rating, not as many people watching TV. But still, if you tell people, oh, I'm on 7 Days, they'll be like, oh yeah, I love that show. And you'd be like, yeah, but you haven't watched it in 4 years. But it still acts as like, it's still weird because no one's watching these shows, but people still kind of treat TV as like as like a good way of sorting out who is good and who is bad,
Yeah. I know in asking you this next question, I mean, you're someone from New Zealand who's come over to Australia to perform internationally, but like going to other countries other than Australia, New Zealand, when did you start like traveling internationally to perform?
Last year, I think.
Was it just last year?
It was only last year, I think.
Yeah, all right.
Well, 2024, yeah. So Melanie Bracewell, I think, was it at her impetus? I'm not sure, but she, I think, wanted to tour the UK, and then she got me to open for her, and we had both just done the New Zealand, the then latest season of New Zealand Taskmasters. So we were sort of striking while the iron was hot. And so, she was doing her show and I would open for her, and we toured around the UK, just making sure I'm not about to cause a crisis by including Ireland in there. But no, we didn't go to either of the Irish territories. And so we toured around the UK, and then later on we both did Edinburgh together, and then this year I toured the UK on my own with an opener, Becky Umbers, very funny New Zealand comic. I toured the UK, and then I did Edinburgh as well this year, and then I'm also going to the UK again next year.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How are your audiences there? Because nowadays, obviously, like people who live overseas, of course, can like discover you on things like Instagram or whatever. Like, have you had the same level of audience that you've had over there as you've had here? And
no,
Yeah.
no. I can definitely feel the impact of my television appearance, the working dog effect.
Yeah.
Their shows. I can feel that here in Australia. I could definitely do bigger rooms, I think, in Australia. And also, I think it does affect maybe the nature, the demographic of the audience as well. Like, in Australia, I think I get a broader, maybe subset of the population, of all ages and things like that because of their shows. Whereas in the UK, it's interesting because I feel like they're primarily finding me through social media or Taskmaster, and so I think that does change the demographics ever so slightly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's. I mean, they're still very, decent size. Well, I was gonna say decent size rooms. I'll be doing like 100 seaters to 200 seaters. I think.
More than you probably would have thought when you first started out. Of course, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm a country boy from Wanganui. I never thought that one day someone on the other side of the world would ever know who I am. So it's absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Something else I discovered about you while listening to other podcasts that you've been on. Ray is actually not your real name. It's a stage name.
That is true.
And I find it hilarious that you called yourself Ray because of Ray Romano. Because you sound like Ray Romano. So
if people are clocking on now, they're wondering why Ray Romano has a New Zealand accent. You've got the wrong podcast. This is Ray O'Leary. Yeah.
Did you regret that decision? Like, was it a decision that you were like, oh, should I have done that now? Or, was it pretty...
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about regretting it. I've never felt bad. If anything, well, initially I kind of liked the idea because it made it feel like the comedy world and my private life was separate, and then I kind of had the separation, but now the opposite has kind of happened where comedy has now gotten bigger, or it's such a public-facing job that like now everyone knows me through that, and all the friends I make are through comedy now. Like I don't work a day. I don't have a day job anymore, so I'm not meeting new people who call me by my government name or whatever, And so
government name.
So it is interesting. Like so now, like everyone I meet will call
you Ray.
Yeah.
Even people who know you, like who from a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some people even. I think they assume I prefer being called Ray, which is I wouldn't say I prefer. It's not that I prefer it. I just like if you pick one, just stay with that one, but some people will be like, oh, he must prefer Ray, and then they update. And so like I've had old work friends start calling me Ray. I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right coming out of your mouth. But yeah, the hope was if anything I could keep the two worlds separate. But now if anything the comedy thing is taking over, and a very small fraction of people I know now in my life. Like family really. I had family at the show last night, and they immediately called me Matt, and I was like, oh, it's been a while since someone's called me that.
See, that's funny to me. Has there ever been a point where you've actually forgotten, like, oh yeah, actually my real name isn't Ray? Yeah. Because so many people have called me Ray now.
Yeah, it's I think so. Yeah. It does happen. Yeah. I don't really think about it almost, but it is. Yeah. I guess last night it was almost shocking to hear it, especially at a gig where it's like, oh no, this is a comedy space. Like
as we record this today, you filmed your special last night, which I'm looking forward to seeing when it's released.
Thank you.
But now you're sort of, you are filming your specials. You have to look back on that performance, right? Are you good with looking back at performances of yours?
No. Oh, well, yes and no. So I audio record myself all the time.
Yes.
I'm audio recording this right now. I audio record every set I do, and if I'm doing new material, I listen back and grade how the jokes do and stuff. And and so I'm used to doing that, the audio version to be self-critical and to make sure which jokes are working, yada yada. But I never video record myself. So the first special I did, I filmed in late 2024, and that was the first time I kind of had to watch a video of myself back performing for that length, and it was horrible. It was awful. There was just so many little mannerisms I had, and I was like, this is terrible. This is hard to watch. Why would anyone watch this? And then people will say, "Oh, that's no one's going to notice that." And then you post it online, and you get hundreds of Facebook comments, all identifying the same flaws, and then finding other ones that you didn't realize you had and stuff. People were really hung up on how many times I touched my glasses. I think I was wearing a particularly loose pair of glasses that day, and so I think I fixed that for last night. We'll see. And the other thing was I was filming it in a room where the audience was sort of in a U shape around me, which I do love for live performance. That is really fun. So there were audiences. There was audience to the left of me and to the right of me and right in front of me. But that meant I felt like I needed to include all of them. So I was constantly looking left, right, and so I was twitching constantly like I was watching like a tennis game or something. And last night I was only performing to people like sort of straight in front of me. So hopefully I'm not twitching as noticeably. Though in Edinburgh I did get a positive review which included the lines, he twitches and moves nervously.
I'm interested to know this. Like, so one of the best things about getting older is you sort of pick up on the bad habits you had when you were younger. And I hope, for me at least, when I do sense one of my bad habits coming to a head, that I'm better at stopping myself and trying to get out of that bad habit. Have you noticed that any bad habits you may have had as a younger stand-up comedian or someone just starting out, are you able to catch those bad habits now if they do come up and get yourself out of them?
Yes and no. There are probably, it's hard to remember, but I think there are some things I'm sure I've stopped doing, which is good. Like I do think I've become overall better at dealing with a bad gig. I think I've definitely improved. I used to, I think, feel like my mood for the whole entire next day would depend on how well the last night's gig had gone or whatever. But I don't think I'm quite that bad anymore. So I think those things I've managed to hold on to. I think there are probably some traits. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if I ever used to tell the audience were bad. If I thought they were bad, that can be a bad thing to do as a comic. It's so tempting to try and tell the audience they're bad in a hope to, I don't know, jostle them into laughing more or whatever. But normally, if you tell an audience they're bad, they just go, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I thought we were enjoying the show, but apparently we've been doing it wrong this whole time." And then they shut down. Things like that. We were talking before about how I used to stare at the floor a lot when I perform. I would say that's coming back now, which is so I'm actually redeveloping some bad habits that I need to get, that I really want to get out of. I'm becoming worse at looking at the audience and look. Yeah, so that's not good. That's not good. So.
Have you? I'm always interested to ask comedians this, but if you feel like a joke isn't going well as you're performing it, do you bail on the bit, or do you just continue with it, and if no one laughs or whatever, it is what it is?
It depends, and I guess I kind of vibe it in the context, and I guess it depends on how the gig has been going and all sorts of things. Like if it's a new material night, the ideal thing is you just persevere and you just keep trying the new lines you have and hope that, and then see which ones hit. But that's easier said than done, because if you feel a bit going terribly, you're just like, maybe I'll just move on to the next bit and stuff. And so sometimes I do that, and sometimes I think, I'll just cut the bit short, and then I'll suddenly we're at the end of the bit, like, okay, here's my closing line for the joke. There's good advice that I've not practiced enough on stage, and I forget who originally said it, but the line of, if you tell a joke on stage, if you do your closing line for the bit on stage and it doesn't get a laugh, that doesn't mean the joke's bad. That just means that's not where the joke ends that night. And then what you should do is kind of keep riffing on the topic until you get a laugh, and then move on. And I think that's great advice.
That's really good.
It's really good advice, which I have never. I think I've maybe.
It's good advice, but I've never applied it myself.
I think I've maybe done it once, but I find been. I mean, I do improvise on stage, but I can. If a line is just bombed, I think it's a very scary prospect to be like, well, let's keep improvising on this idea and see if I could win you guys back. I find that very daunting.
How do you deal with silences, a prolonged silence during gigs?
You're pretty well.
Great.
I think you can. Sometimes you're just on stage and like, I do my first joke, like for this show, for example, the first joke, the first proper joke I do is like meant to be, it's normally a pretty big laugh. And if it's not a pretty big laugh, that's already, I'm like, okay, something's wrong. There's something wrong, and the issue's not with me. The issue's clear. No, but for whatever reason, maybe I've just got an audience who aren't into it or whatever. But I'm just like, oh, okay, we've got to do the rest of the show, and I've already got this indicator that they're not gonna. And I'm someone who likes to do the show as written. Like I feel like I've thought of some things, here they are. I don't love improvising. I don't love talking to the crowd or anything like that, and which is a shame because probably those skills would dig me out a lot of these holes. But instead I'm just like, well, this is what the show is and I'm about to deliver it to you. So if you don't like it, well, too bad. And then I just deliver it at them, and I just I just do the show, and if I feel like it's gone particularly bad, I'll just try avoid the audience afterwards.
One of the biggest reasons why I stopped doing stand-up comedy was the nerves that I would go through before going on stage, to the point where I was just asking myself, why am I ruining entire days for a 5 or 10 minute open mic set? How are you with nerves now, assuming you have them? Versus when you started.
I was going to say, it's a good, probably good you did quit, because you'd still have the nerves. Like the nerves don't go away. They don't truly go away, I'd say. And I think it is a good thing to have the nerves, because it does show you care about what you're about to do to some extent. The nerves have definitely gotten better. Like you before, similarly before, if I knew I had a gig that day, you were thinking about it a lot. And I would say at least an hour before the show, I would just pace in my room back and forth, and I just repeat the set over and over to myself because because I guess that was like the thing I had agency over.
Right.
Like, excuse me, I couldn't control whether or not I couldn't determine whether or not the audience were going to laugh, especially early on. Like, I don't know if they were going to find it funny or not, or maybe this was going to be a crowd that just didn't like me or whatever. But I did know I could learn the material, so just pace and learn that over and over again. And now I'm not nearly as angry. Now I don't need to recite everything I'm about to say word for word before I go on stage. I think you just kind of get used to it, and so they go down, but they never truly go away. And the other thing is, if you get to do something like Edinburgh or Melbourne comedy festivals, where you're doing the same show or the exact same set day in, day out, over and over again at the same time in the same room, that really does help, because then it's kind of like, all right, I'm clocking into work, let's go.
Yeah. Are you able to switch off? Say you're going on a holiday. Can you put yourself in that moment of not having to think about what show you're going to write, or when is the next gig going to come along? Are you someone who can switch off?
Yes, I think so. To my detriment, I'd like to switch back on. Actually, I'm trying to write a new show. That's So, but no, I do think I can. I do think I can switch off. Again, there's always a little bit at the back of your mind. Like someone will say something to you and you go, hold on, that's like a weird thing to say, or something, and then you'll make a note to yourself or whatever. So I think I can switch off. Like, I'm not always thinking about it, but again, yeah, things will happen, and you'll be like, "That's really bizarre. What just happened? I better make a note of that."
Yeah. I'll start to wrap up shortly. This has flown by. This has been one of the funnest episodes I've recorded.
I'm so sorry to hear that,
in a
Dan.
while.
This is the peak. Oh, no.
Before I'll ask you the last couple of questions, where can people find you? What's coming up? This will probably come out towards the end of November or early December.
I'm at Ray O'Leary Comedy on all social media platforms, on Instagram, on MySpace. I'm on Truth Social. Just get out there on all of them. I've got a special on YouTube if you want to watch that. If this is coming out late November, early December, I believe I will have announced my my tour for next year. If not, well, you got a sneak exclusive. But I believe tickets will be on sale for that for New Zealand, Australia, and I'm going everywhere. I'm going all over. So please check it out. Oh, and if you're in the UK, I'm touring there February, March next year, and tickets are definitely on sale for that.
Beautiful. So as this is a self-reflective podcast, I think about this a lot now that I have these sorts of conversations. But I can think back now to conversations that I've had years and years ago that probably didn't mean much to me at the time, but I can only probably look back on it now and say, oh, if I didn't have that conversation with that person, then all these other things in my life wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have led to all these other opportunities that I would have had. Can you look back on any conversations that you've had in the past and think, oh, if I didn't have that conversation with that person, then all these other things wouldn't have happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have. I mean, maybe these aren't big ones. I don't know, but I think I've mentioned two on the podcast already. But one, the guy telling me to wear the suit.
Yeah.
He didn't say wear the suit every day for the rest of your life, but that's what I heard. And I mean, that has, I think, I didn't realize it, but doing that has really greatly changed my life. Because again, I think it's easy to. I think it makes it easier to describe me to your friends, like like if you're like, oh, he's that comedian who always wears the grey suit or whatever, that helped. And then when I think Alice Snedden and Ryan Richardson, them telling me to move to Auckland, so that was the first time I moved cities for comedy, and so that was I had to quit my job, I had to find a new job, I had to shift suddenly to a new city I'd never been to, try and make new friends. So I think that probably pushed me a lot, and then was the first thing that I think made me willing to, maybe sacrifice things for my career and help me get where I am now. And I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't have had that conversation. I probably would have stayed living in Wellington, and I wouldn't be here, because Auckland, that's where all the TV workers and stuff, and you kind of needed to be there to be seen by those people to help get those opportunities. And so I just would have missed out on so many things that started leading me down the path which has gotten me here. So I think I think those guys also would have no remembrance of telling me to do that, and would have no clue that I just wasn't be like, yep, all right, cool, I'm going to do that.
One last question. That's the question I always end on. What are the words of wisdom you live by?
This too shall pass. I think is the greatest 4 words. I think. This too shall pass. Everything comes to pass. It's going to be okay. I think it's for in terms of personal philosophy and getting over things. I think it's very helpful for dealing with everything. Yeah.
Ray O'Leary, comedian, face of Vanuatu tourism. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Thank you. Beautiful.
I didn't ask you any questions.